For those who are on the call tonight or on the meeting call tonight, we typically record our meetings. We record the presentation sessions. And then once we get to the session or the section where we're going to do public comment, we typically turn it off because we don't want people's, sensitive information being recorded or being out there. And we want to keep it kind of private into this meeting. And so I am Troy Sampson, and I want to welcome you to Special Education Cities Advisory Council for Prince George's Committee for Prince George's County Public Schools. I am your chairperson, Troy Sampson. We have our board with us, some of our board members tonight. We have Pam Talley, who's our community outreach manager. We have Jamie Afonso Kumo, who is our secretary. I don't see other members on, like Sarah Whalen or Jeannie Payne, who's our treasurer, or Io Bello. I guess they'll be joining at some point. Want to give a quick shout out to Rob Malone, who's executive director of the ARC, as well as Melanie Clark, who works with him at the ARC. And then we also have our school team. We got Chanel Bowman, Associate Director of Special Education for the county. We have Dr. Beth Diate, who is the instructional specialist at the Family Engagement or Support Center. We got Marcia Turzan, who's our program coordinator as well. And we got Yvette Young, who's a social worker. And if there's anybody that I missed, charge it to my head, not to my heart. But I want to welcome everybody to our first meeting of a SECAC meeting of the year, school year 2022-23. So we got a jam-packed agenda tonight. This is a welcome back to school. So if you have questions, we have answers. And so we're going to be digging into and hearing from members of our school team on navigating the school system in terms of if you got questions and things like that. So our Department of Special Education team, as well as Family Support Center, as well as Transportation Department, are going to answer questions and give you information about what's going on. We also have Health Services that's going to be on as well to give you an update on health services. And hopefully this information will be informative and enlightening and delightening. And then at the end of the presentations, when we wrap up with transportation, we will have open for public comment and questions. We may try to squeeze a few questions in during each session or during each presentation, but we'll keep it short. And we really want to make sure if we can, save them for the public comment and questions. So if you got a question and if we can get to you, we can. If not, just save it for that question and comment section. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to SECAC. And so we're going to hear from Chanel Bowman, who is our Associate Superintendent Director of Special Education, and get an update from what's going on with special education.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 2022-23 school year. It seemed like the summer went really, really fast, and we are kicking off the beginning of our school year. So I'd like to welcome everyone to Prince George's County Public Schools, if I have any new families with us, and welcome our community and stakeholders that are also joining us this evening. On the next slide, you know that we've had some changes with our Board of Education members, so we wanted to make sure that you are aware just of some of those changes. And I know that in November, there will be some additional changes happening. We still do have a vacant board member, but we did have some new appointees to the board. And that would be Ms. Sapir Miller, as well as Ms. Madeline Frazier, which are both two new board members. On the next slide, I also wanted to share, just in terms of thinking about our demographics for Prince George's County Public Schools, we are one of the nation's 20th largest school districts in the United States, and the second largest district in Maryland behind Montgomery County Public Schools. You do know through the FY23 budget process that there were some consolidations of our schools. And so we're down to 198 schools and centers across the district. So I did want to point out that change. We initially had 206, I believe, and now we're down to 198 for this school year. We have 22,000 employees, and our student enrollment as of the last data poll in September of 2020, which is what these stats are based on, was at 131,657 students. I did want to point out to all of our families and stakeholders that we do have a new special education parents page, and Marcy's going to take us there. We thought it was very important that when parents come to our special ed landing page, that they actually have a special education parents page that just gives some basic questions around what do you do if you suspect your child has a disability, if they're found eligible, what happens next, and really walking parents through. Also letting parents know if you're in high school, what are some of those services you should be thinking about and getting more information. And then just how do you look at services and support? So I'd like to give a shout out to our Family Support Center, again, for helping to shape this particular landing page and providing a lot of different links to Maryland State Department of Education. You see SECAC and other community resources. So I just wanted to highlight that for you, that we right on our landing page have created a special education parent page that's right on the Department of Special Education. So when you go right there, you have that particular page, and just pointed out some frequently asked questions that we have been seeing, just with questions coming in to the Family Support Center, as well as through our Chief Executive Officer or through my office. So we did create that. And we wanted to point that out to you. On the next slide, I did want to let everyone know we did have a update around our relationship development intervention parent group. We did have a meeting last spring, I believe, and there were some concerns about this particular parent group not remaining due to the impending retirement of one of our autism specialists that led the group, Ms. Betty Atkins. So Camille Johnson worked really hard through the spring and summer to really look at what the relationship development intervention, or RDI, work group would look like for our particular district. And just to let everyone know, on the first bullet, it talks about RDI programs really teach parents how to guide their children to seek out and succeed in reciprocal relationships, addressing key core issues, thinking about motivation, communication, emotional regulation, rapid attention shifting, self-awareness, etc. And so our Department of Special Education did enter into a partnership with Guiding Exceptional Parents to help facilitate the RDI parent group in our particular district. And that will be led by Dr. Sarah Whalen and Ms. Betty Atkins, who will serve as our parent group facilitators for the district. Our RDI parent group for the 22-23 school year will be held on the first and third Tuesday of the month from 5:30 p.m. to 7 o'clock p.m. And that we will host a pertinent information session on October 18th. And the link, once you receive it posted, you can register at that particular link to register for the parent information session to get more information. So that was something that I definitely promised our SECAC parent group that we would bring back with an update. So I wanted to make sure that I provided that as part of our update tonight. The other thing I wanted everyone to be aware of is that we do have an in-person instruction plan that is posted on our PGCPS website, and Marcy's going to bring that up for you, just so that you understand what's happening around, again, the return to in-person instruction. We know that all of our students return to in-person instruction this school year. We're continuing, of course, to always monitor our COVID-19 positivity rates and make adjustments as needed, and leveraging federal funding to really address, and we will continue to do that this year, the learning loss, summer school academic interventions, and tutoring. So I did want to make sure that you had access to the in-person instruction and continuity plan so that you know some of those supports and services that we're providing to our parents and community, as well as some of the protocols that we will be following throughout the school year. The other update I wanted everyone to be aware of, and this is more of a district update, and then we'll talk a little bit about our special ed strategic plan, but Dr. Golson and the executive team worked over a year and a half to really look at our PGCPS strategic plan, convened a variety of stakeholders to include parents and community members and district staff, school-based staff, et cetera, to unveil and release our new strategic plan, which is Transformation 2026. The strategic plan for Prince George's County really communicates, our mission, our vision, and core values. It really is our blueprint for really setting outcome-oriented goals and key performance areas. It really gives our strategic imperatives. It talks about how we will measure progress, and it's really a framework that we're using to ensure, again, coherent collaboration among our district. I've given you the link to our strategic plan site. If you actually go on that site, there's an actual overview video as well as a variety of resources on the site that really talks about the transformation of equity and excellence and what we're doing. So again, when you get an opportunity, you're welcome to look at that particular video. The other thing I wanted to share with you is for Dr. Golson. She's identified 3 priorities for this particular school year that's really anchored in our strategic plan, and that is looking at the academic achievement and improvement for mathematics performance across the district. Also looking at social emotional learning, both for not only our students, but for our staff members. And the other piece she's really focusing on is culture and climate. So those are 3 pieces that you will hear her talk about throughout the school year and board meetings, but those are her 3 priorities that she is really focusing on this school year as it relates to our PGCPS strategic plan. The other update I wanted to share is our Department of Special Education strategic plan. Those of you know, in 2019, we released a strategic plan that really focused on 3 areas, really looking at improving the delivery of services related to 3 specific populations: students with autism, students who have an emotional disability, and students with specific learning disabilities. We also, as part of Goal 2, really focused on general supervision and monitoring systems and structures to ensure that IEPs are being implemented, services are being delivered. We also added to that monitoring physical restraint as a district, disciplinary procedures, along with the development of functional behavior assessments and behavior intervention plans. Anchored in Goal 3 is really to look at evidence-based practices and coaching strategies that build the capacity of our educators, teachers, general education and special education, along with our support staff and related service providers. For this year, these are the 4 areas that we really are focusing on as it relates to our strategic plan. One of the pieces is to really look at how we support schools differently. So we've had teams of staff across our district work for the last 2 years, and you'll hear more about that this school year, but to really look at how we can implement a tiered systems of support framework and how we support schools. So we are working with pilot schools this year. Based on established data metrics, we're looking at the academic achievement indicators for that particular school as it relates to our district benchmarks, for example, kindergarten readiness, graduation rate, as just an example. We're also looking at the results of our IEP processes in terms of those audits that we do for each of our schools. We're looking at behavior indicators as well, and then other IEP processes such as timelines for completing students with an initial eligibility, as well as looking at secondary transition plans. Are they in compliant, among other factors. Based on those particular data metrics, a school would be tiered either as a universal tiered school, a targeted tiered school, or a intensive school. And then with that comes a variety of supports, a plan of action, and working directly with that school. So you'll hear a little bit more about that, but that is something that we are kicking off this year as a pilot for elementary, middle, and high schools. Is about, I think, 13 schools in the pilot this year. And based on that pilot, we will be conducting focus groups, survey data, et cetera, to really be able to gear up and look at full implementation in the years to come. Again, we still are focusing on rethinking our service delivery models with a keen focus on students with autism, social emotional behavior needs, and specific learning disabilities by leveraging community partners and to maximize our staffing resources, really to be able to strengthen those service delivery models. The other piece that we're focusing on is working on evidence-based strategies to be incorporated in our district mathematics curriculum frameworks, so that we can make sure that we are meeting students where they are with disabilities, but also giving strategies to teachers, both general ed and special ed, that looks at not only the strategies, but a follow-up professional learning and coaching plan. And then our last big strategic focus this year as part of our strategic plan is developing a monitoring system to evaluate the quality of service delivery models, particularly for those three groups of students and those programs: students with autism, students in our SEED program, which is our social emotional academic development program, and then really looking at students with specific learning disabilities, which is our largest population of students with disabilities. So again, I just wanted to highlight those 4 strategic focuses. We have shared this with our Board of Education Academic Achievement Steering Committee, as well as our executive team. As we focus on our strategic focus, we also have an opportunity to resolve challenges. And so these are the 4 challenges that, as we work through and look through our data, we really want to have a keen focus on and give us opportunities to really resolve these challenges. We want to be able to reduce the number of students with disabilities in self-contained classrooms by increasing opportunities with non-disabled peers. And we know that when we look at national research across districts that provide more inclusionary opportunities, that we know that our students' academic achievement does increase. We know that if you hear our state assistant superintendent for special education, early intervention, and special ed, you will hear Marcella Frankowski often talk about narrowing the achievement gap. We know that we won't close it, but we have to really be able to look at how do we provide those opportunities for our non-disabled peers to model and support students with disabilities by modeling academic areas. That's one piece that we're really focusing on. Another area is we still, as a district, are working through our compensatory education recovery service decisions. We are happy to report that we did have over 19,000 students that had to be reviewed. And as of September 1st, we have about 2,400 students still remaining of decisions that need to be completed. And so we hope to close that gap and have been completed by now. But as we know, we have definitely been plagued by staffing shortages, and central office has had to really step in and help support those schools with high vacancies. And so we're hoping to be able to narrow and close that by the end of the school year. The other piece of our challenge is to address the completion of reevaluation assessments that were backlogged as a result of COVID-19. So when we closed and when we came back for the school year in the fall of 20, we had probably about 2,500 reevals that were overdue. And so when we left and looked at our data June 1st of this year, 2022, we had about 758 overdue reevals, and the teams worked so hard during the summer that we've been able to close that gap and reduce that to only 363 reevals. And so that's another piece that we're continuing to work until we get down to typically where we may run no more than 50 reeval overdue, which is our typical trend data that we, if you look at our year to year. So we're just about there. And then the other piece that we're really working on is increasing the number of students with disabilities who are enrolled in career technical education programs. And there's actually a district-wide steering committee that's really focusing on CTE and how we increase that enrollment for students, particularly students with disabilities. What are some of the supports that they may need to make them successful? So again, these are some of the areas that we're looking to resolve challenges in. We'll be releasing an update regarding the progress of our special education strategic plan. Will be released soon, and I'll make sure I share that with you so that you can see more details, incremental details around our action steps and other things that we have done as an update. And then on the next slide, I always want to make sure you have our special education resolution team contact list. So I have provided a link, so you'll get that when you get the PowerPoint that has basically who to call if you have certain questions pertaining to certain areas, anything from transportation to accommodations, et cetera. We've listed those folks that you can call for support. And that concludes my updates for this evening. And I've provided my email address and my phone number if anybody has specific questions or would like to reach out. But I know we'll have an opportunity at the end of today's session to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Janelle, for that informative information. We're gonna probably, I'm gonna open it up for one or two questions. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Bowman before we move on? I see Rob Malone, you got your hand raised. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'll turn my camera on too. I apologize. I was eating dinner when we first started. um, it's not maybe it's a question. I noticed on the slide, Ms. Bowman, when you shared 36% of our student, I guess that's overall student population, not just special education, is 36%. That's a lot. Any can you give any guidance on how the school system is transforming or adjusting to support such a high population of Hispanic students? That's a lot of people.
So one of the things I think could be helpful is we do have a transliteration office that works very closely with our English as a second language office. I can speak from the special education side that we do bilingual assessment. So as students, if students are suspected of having a disability and they speak a different language coming into our district, we do provide bilingual assessments. We also provide ESOL services. So students who are identified as a, beginner coming into our coming into the country, the ESOL does do an assessment and determine what those services may look like as it relates to English as a second language. We also provide, interpreters for our meetings for parents or translation of documents in Spanish as it relates to the IEP, as well as other pertinent prior written notice, et cetera. So definitely, in terms of specific strategies, I do know that we do have parent engagement specialists at many of our schools, and many of our parent engagement specialists are also bilingual themselves. And then there's also, through our diversity and equity office, they are working to do community outreach to those families to support them. We know that this month is National Hispanic Month, and so there's a variety of activities that the district is doing that is posted on our website. But definitely I can follow up if that's an area or topic that we would like additional information on. I can definitely work with those relevant offices just to give a more specific detail. But those are the things that I know that I'm aware of that we're doing. But I definitely could reach out to those specific offices that are doing the outreach to get more specific. And I will say that our Hispanic Latino population is continuing to increase. Remember, this data set that's on our website is pertinent as of September of 2020. And so I would expect to have an update around student demographics that will happen again this year, where that population will definitely increase beyond the 36% for sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, appreciate that question. All right, so in the interest of time, Ms. King, Ms. Caldwell, Ms. Bullock, if we could hold your questions, if you want to, you can put them in the chat so we can definitely make sure we get those questions out there and answered. But we're going to move forward. And so we're going to have our Family Support Center team, which is Dr. Beth Diate and Marcy Tershon, present and give us an overview of the Family Support Center.
Good evening. So also with us, we have Miss Yvette Young, and we'll make some introductions in just a couple slides. So this is our Family Support Center. We have, and this is our Bitmoji for the school year. We are myself, Marcy Torsion. I'm the program coordinator for Family Support and ESY. Beth is Dr. Jate is our instructional specialist, and then Yvette is our social worker. Our emails usually have this Bitmoji at the bottom of them, but let me take you just a couple of things through that. We do have a sign up for consultations. We have a calendar for all of our events and workshops. So let's just click on that for just a second. I think people are having trouble hearing me, so let me try again. And if you could mute, I would appreciate it. this is our calendar of events. You'll see that some of them have already occurred. We just finished a 3-part series on ADHD and executive functioning with Dr. Carrie Heller. And so as this calendar goes down, you'll see the ones that are planned. Tonight, SECAC. We also have our trainings for our parent surrogacy. We do have a fall mini conference coming up for dyslexia and reading disabilities. That is on the 18th at 6:30 p.m. And we do have 2 support groups that we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. On this, you will also find links. This is kind of a one-stop shop to our YouTube channel, our Twitter feed, which advertises our presentations, and our Family Support Center website and the parent page, as we had showed you earlier. We do want to show you, we have a new Family Support Center video. So let me play that and make sure you all can hear that.
Malcolm is a loving, he's very sweet, he's very kind, he loves to hug, and he loves to dance, he loves to eat. I think he inherited that from me.
It's good. It's yummy. What color? Red. All right, Malcolm. You did it. Okay, what did you earn? Doritos. Doritos.
The Family Support Center is a resource and information center for families of children with disabilities.
I like how you're sitting. You're doing a great job, buddy.
And we pretty much do it all.
What is this? What, a teddy bear.
I really emphasize becoming educated on your child's disability, the supports that you may need as the parent, because it's not just the child who's impacted.
Yellow, you are so smart. I love it.
They did observations. They helped me with different type of support groups to get him involved, get myself involved, my husband, and the family involved.
We provide consultations to families when families are new to entering special education. We help them navigate the process, help them understand what an IEP is, and the services that their children are entitled to. What are you working for? What do you want to work for? Your car? You want to work for your car?
They've helped me a lot with dealing with my son and giving me different techniques.
3,
like counting.
4,
That works a lot. He loves to count.
5. And we got the puzzles. Good job. You ready to wash your hands?
You know, we're human. You get a little frustrated and I have to take my time on it. I let him see me. Mommy got to count too because mommy's upset. So, yeah, it's helped a lot.
Can you put these 2 together? Look, Aaron. Uh-oh.
When you have a child who has extreme social emotional needs, it definitely impacts the family. And so parents are tired, they're stressed, you get a lot of phone calls when you have children who have challenging behaviors, and we want to help parents make sure that they're taking care of themselves as well as their children.
Parents who need mental wellness support.
Los papás que necesitan el apoyo de la salud mental.
Most of the Spanish speaker families here, they don't speak English, and sometimes they just don't really have the understanding of what is special education and specifically the disability that their children have.
Our schools and centers.
We offer interpreters, and the workshops can be in Spanish also.
SECAC is our special education citizens advisory committee. They get together and they advise the Department of Special Ed on issues that are prevalent in the community. We have 14,986 students in our district who receive special education services. Every child has a plan.
You want some more? Say more, please. Good job. Okay.
He has so many words. He wants to say so much. He just doesn't know how to say it.
Oh, you want to pick up your puzzle? You want to pick up your puzzle?
He's a puzzle. I'm going to figure him out. I'm going to figure my baby out.
All right, so that is our introductory video from our Family Support Center, and you can see some of the families and the students that we've worked with over the years in that video. I did see a couple of questions in the chat about where the links are to the presentations and the upcoming events, and each of you that has attended or registered for this will send out a list of things that are coming up and the links to register for them. So you'll receive that this week. Our office is funded by the Maryland Department of Special Education, Department of Family Support. And as part of that, we have a parent survey that is sent out both by mail and is available online each year. We call it Indicator 8 because that's what we have to report on. And basically it is a survey, an anonymous survey of parents on different school age survey questions. So one of the first questions is, I am considered an equal partner with teachers and other professionals in planning my child's program. And there are anywhere between 20 and 25 questions each year. And the results from that survey, when they are reported to us, are what drive our needs for next year. And so we take a really critical look at what is not met and what is already met. And that helps us plan the presentations and the workshops and the materials that we order for the next year. So this is just a quick snapshot of our information from this year. We met 8 indicators. We are approaching 7 indicators and needs improvement on 9. And so this is really how the parent interacts with the school, these questions. And so we look to help not only the parents, but the schools in family engagement. So some of the services that we provide, we have a computer lab that's open during regular operations. We do have a lending library that you can see the picture of this year, see the picture of here. We have workshops and trainings. We have information on how to resolve disagreements. We have conferences and resource fairs. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Referrals to community agencies, support during IEP meetings. A lot of what we do is attend IEP meetings with families. And then we have some monthly support groups, which we'll also get into in just a second. So our goal, like Beth said in the video, is to help families become educated about their child's disability in the IEP process. So we help families learn information about their child's disability. We hope to increase their awareness of community services. A lot of times we help facilitate resolving concerns that they have related to their child's IEP. Connecting with resources and agencies, and then really developing relationships with community partners that have resources outside of our office to assist families. So just a couple of data points from this past school year. We served overall 333 families. We offered across the 21-22 school year 179 activities. We had 40 parent surrogacy trainings. We attended 51 IEP meetings, and we served 103 out of the last year. It was 208. This year, obviously, it's a little different. And so those are just a little look at the numbers that our office provides. We had a school year kickoff series this year for attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, and executive functioning with Dr. Carrie Heller out of Heller Psychology Group in Montgomery County. And it was a 3-part series. And over that 3-part series, we had about 70 participants. One of those series was a lunchtime session. And so we really felt like parents had an opportunity to interact with him and learn from this 3-part series. We do have that fall mini conference coming up. Our featured speaker is Dr. Rebecca Resnick. She was here last year and she will return to us this year. It is October 18th, 2022. It is from 6:30 to 8 p.m. and it will be a virtual Zoom. And like I said, we'll send that link out this week. We have 2 other series coming up this fall. The first is a parent backpack series for school success. It is a 4-part series across the 22-23 school year. It runs on Thursday evenings. It's not always the 4th because of holidays, but and the first session is taking a deeper dive into your child's IEP. Then we're going to have a session on organizing for the IEP meeting, and then tips and tricks supporting your child's learning without a fight, and then understanding data that's used to determine your child's progress. And that will be facilitated by the 3 of us in the office. Our other one that we're really excited about, some of you already know that we've been facilitating a behavior changes support group for the past couple of years. And so this year we've expanded that a little bit. It actually is in 3 different sections, all at the same time. So we will have one group for beginners, one group for those that have joined us before, and one group for exclusively Spanish-speaking families. And that will be facilitated by a Spanish-speaking BCBA. And so that starts in October as well. We do have a resource guide that is available for outside resources that are that just has been updated this fall. And so that will be included in the links that you will receive. And it is a community and online resource guide, everything from counseling resources, therapy, different autism resources, different mental health resources, food and housing resources. And so that link will be included as well. As I mentioned before, and I believe Yvette mentioned in the chat, we also have a YouTube channel. I'm not going to click on it, but you can see some of the presentations that we've had before, and any and all of our SECAC meetings and all of our conference presentations are available at that link. We also have a quarterly newsletter, and again, for time's sake, I'm probably not going to click on it, but it does have quarterly themes and will be released both online and in print. So what's coming up? So we do have our 12th annual Parent Empowerment Conference. In case you've missed anything, we have the links to our conference videos and resources and our additional presentation videos. I did see a question, do we have a SECAC flyer in Spanish? Yes, our flyer is double-sided and the back side is Spanish. I'm being told I have about 1 minute, so we will quickly wrap up here. And if you want to keep up with all that's happening in our Family Support Center, you can join our listserv, and I'll put that link in the chat. And then we're here to help you. We are located at John Carroll in room 3. And that is our phone number for our Family Support Center.
All right. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. If we have any questions about the Family Support Center, please put them in the chat. In the effort of trying to regain some of our time, we'll keep moving forward. And then we'll get to our health and safety updates and answers from Dr. Tracy Jones. Dr. Jones, are you there?
Good afternoon. I am here.
All right.
So, there we go. That was going to be my next question. Are you all going to share the PowerPoint? Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am Dr. Jones. I am the supervisor for the Office of School Health. Today, we're going to go over some school health updates, provide some COVID updates, and then just talk a little bit about monkeypox and how we're going to be reporting it. Next slide. So I have this slide in there because I wanted everybody to see our hierarchy for the Office of School Health. I want everybody to know that every school has a nurse manager that is assigned to the school. So if you ever have any areas of concerns, you are welcome to email the nurse manager that is assigned to the school. This year, for the first time in many years, as of today, I have all but 10 schools that are covered by a nurse. So that has been a huge undertaking for us this summer. So all except for 10 schools have nurses in them. Next slide. Some of the things that are new for us this year is actually our nurses are actually working an 8-hour day. They are in the buildings based on the bell times, either from 7 a.m. To 3:30 p.m. or from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. But the nurses are in the building for 8.5-hour day every day, Monday through Friday. The other new thing is Hazel, which is our telehealth program. It will be in 63 schools in our middle, highs, and academies. Parents will have access to Hazel as long as they have a laptop, a cell phone, a tablet, or any type of device that connect to the internet. They will have access to Hazel from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Why is this important? Because if you wake up and your child is not feeling well, as long as you have access to Hazel, you can get in contact with a provider. They will see your child virtually. They will provide your children with diagnoses. They will, if you need antibiotics, they will write your prescription and send it directly to your neighborhood pharmacy. If it is in one of your children's schools and they get sick while they're at school, then they can go and see the nurse. The nurse can access the telehealth visit, and your child will be seen by a provider then. They do have providers that speak other languages. I know it's Spanish and French, but they also have other languages that they speak. When they complete their visit with the child, the parent will receive a discharge summary or notification of what transpired during that visit. If there are, additional medications that were needed, again, they will send the prescriptions directly to the pharmacy. The good thing about this, our goal is to keep our kids in school. They will have some minor over-the-counter medications like Tylenol, some ibuprofen, some Aleve, some Pepto-Bismol, so that we can manage minor symptoms there, let them rest, and then allow them to go back to school. That will prevent us from having to call the parents to have the parents to come and pick the child up. If for some reason your child is sent home because they don't have a kiosk or they don't attend a middle or high or academy, then you can, when the child comes home and you get home, as long as it's before 7 a.m., you can reach out to Hazel, you can see a provider, you can get a doctor's note and have the child return to school the next day. Again, the goal is to keep the kids in school or to prevent the amount of time that they are away from school. By having Hazel and having access to it after hours, it will allow you the opportunity to see providers without having to take off time from work. It allows you to see providers to get the much needed documentation in order for them to return to school. Everyone will need to have a consent form. They will be electronic, and we will also have paper copies at the schoolhouse. This will be implemented, or at least the physical side of it will be implemented. We'll start in October. We'll do a week where we'll implement the middle schools and academies. We'll wait a week so we can work out any bugs or kinks that we may find, and then we will implement it in the high schools. In November, they will also have a mental health component. So if your child needs to be seen by a provider for a mental health concern, again, as long as you have a tablet, a phone, an iPad, a laptop, and you can access the internet, then you can sign in. They can make appointments. Appointments can be made for either during the day if there's a kiosk at the school, or they can be made for when the child is at home. So our goal is to provide, increased access to healthcare, both mental health services as well as physical services. Remember, once you have a consent form signed, whether it's electronically or whether it's a paper copy, once you do it that one time, it will be good as long as your child is within Prince George's County Public Schools. This is a program that is being funded by the health department, and we are working in collaboration with them to do that. And we were looking forward to being able to service our kids with this new and exciting technology. They will be providing us equipment such as like a blood pressure cuff, a stethoscope, a scale. So they will be providing us some equipment so that when the child is seen, they can see exactly what we're seeing at the time that the child is being seen. So we're really, really excited about this telehealth, Hazel, that is coming our way. You should be getting information about it coming out soon. And like I said, just sign up for it and your child can be seen. Next slide. Some updates for COVID. So this year, masks are optional at this time. We encourage people when they're not feeling well to make sure that they wear their mask. Our nurses will continue to wear their mask. We're encouraging people to be respectful of people's decision of whether or not to wear a mask. It's your individual choice. It's your individual right at this time to choose whether or not you will make that, whether your child will wear the mask or not. However, if your child does become ill, then we will put a mask on your child until such time as either they can be seen by Hazel or until such time that you are able to pick them up. We'll have some testing, just minor testing, only the rapids this year. We are not doing PCRs. We're only testing students who are symptomatic. There must be a consent form on file. If you completed a consent form last year, you will need to complete a new one for this year. Consent forms are done on an annual basis. And again, we're only testing people who are symptomatic. Next slide. So if a person is positive, whether it's a child or staff, that individual has to go home and remains home for 5 days. 5 days start, or day one starts the first day after the test. So the day of the test is day 0. So if you test on Tuesday, that is day 0. Your 5 days start as of Wednesday. So that would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you would be out for 5 days. You can return on day 6, or your child can return on day 6, but they must wear a mask from day 6 to day 10. They must be symptom-free. The only time they can take that mask off during day 6 through day 10 is if they are eating. We still are keeping track of individuals who test positive. We still have to report it to the health department. So we still have to complete the HD COVID reporting survey. If your child is positive or test positive, please let us know so that we can document it, and so that we can ensure that the child is coded correctly as far as the absences for being positive. If your child is unable to wear a mask for days 6 through 10, they are able to test. If they test negative, then they can return to school. You will need to provide a proof of the test that they tested negative so that they will not have to wear their mask. We are aware that some people cannot wear masks. And so if they test on day 6 and they test negative, they do not have to wear a mask. However, if they continue to test positive, then they will be required to stay out day 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 because they are unable to wear a mask. Next slide. For individuals who are exposed to positive cases, they are to remain in school, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. They will remain in school. We will send them a notification letting you know, or letting the parents know that someone in the class tested positive. For reasons of confidentiality, we are unable to tell you who the student is when the student tested positive. However, we will provide anticipatory guidance in that letter, which pretty much talks about looking for the signs and symptoms. And if you were to become symptomatic, we encourage people to get tested. Otherwise, they are to continue to come to school every day unless they become symptomatic. We do encourage people to be tested on the 5th day after the last day that they were exposed, but it is not recommended. It's not mandatory that they do that. We do recommend it, but it's not mandatory. Okay, but we want everybody to know anyone who is exposed continues to come to school and come to work. Next slide. Let's talk really quickly about monkeypox because I know my time is winding down. Next slide. So how does it spread? It's skin to skin, contact to contact. You have to have you have to have a lesion. It can be spread respiratory wise. It can be, you can touch a doorknob, a desk, go behind somebody, touch that doorknob or desk. However, you do have to have like an open area in order for that to occur. And so, next slide. We are for prevention things that we are doing, frequent hand washing throughout the school day. We want to make sure that, kids are washing their hands. We are encouraging kids to avoid any, skin to skin contact. If they look like they have a rash or something, we ask that they not touch it. We encourage children as much as possible not to share items, and we try to clean the items in between the sharing. We do routine cleaning of the school. So at least twice a day it's cleaned. And we tell everybody, whether it's monkeypox or anything else, to stay home. If you are not feeling well, if your child is not feeling well, stay home. It's very difficult to be able to determine if it is what kind of a communicable disease you may have because the symptoms are very similar. They start out very similar. For monkeypox, it's, a low-grade fever. It can be the coughing, the congestion, and it's like that for 3 or 4 days before the rash even appears. And so we tell everybody, we encourage everybody, all parents, staff included, please stay home if you do not feel good. If you believe that you have some type of communicable disease, then we encourage people to put their mask on. Next slide. For athletics, they have to wipe down their equipment in between use because we want to make sure, especially for things like wrestling and if they're using any type of equipment, that they're wiping it down because we don't want to transmit any type of communicable disease from person to person. So we encourage everyone to wipe down all equipment and toys between use. Next slide. If there is a suspected case, the person has to be masked and we isolate them, we put them in a separate area away from everybody else, and we refer them to be tested. We do have a HD monkeypox survey. It's very similar to the COVID survey. So we put that information in. It is a reportable disease that we have to provide the information to the health department. The health department, once we report it, will reach out to the parent. They will provide testing sites. They will give any anticipatory guidance. Next slide. The big thing for monkeypox is they have to remain home and isolated for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. Or typically this is how long it takes for the scab to fall off and for new tissue to form underneath of it. In order for them to return, they have to be cleared by a provider. I know one of the questions is going to be asked, well, what about the education? What happens while the child is at home for 2 to 4 weeks? We are now working with the educators to determine next steps as far as, how these students will be educated while they are home on this isolation. We, of course, will make sure that the classrooms are wiped down and disinfected thoroughly. Next slide. Any questions?
Yeah, we actually have a bunch of questions in the chat. So if you could, Dr. Jones, we get an opportunity, take a look at them. And then when we get to the questions and comments, we'll bring them back up so you can actually answer them, or you can answer them in the chat. That will probably be better if you can answer them in the chat because we're running short on time. So we want to make sure we get to our next presentation, which is from the Transportation Department. And that's Mrs. Allen and Mr. Herbert Bridges. Thank you very much, Dr. Jones.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Herbert Bridges, Transportation Coordinator for Special Education. And
good evening, everyone. Alemnish Allen, Special Education Transportation Coordinator as well for the Department of Transportation. Thank you for the opportunity to present this evening to you all. Next slide. As you all know, as part of our district mission into providing transformative educational experiences for students and 21st century competencies and making everything more inclusive to build empowered communities for our students and the world. Part of our mission with transportation is to offer and deliver efficient transportation services that enable all of our students to arrive at their destination safely and on time every day so that they may be able to receive their instruction. Next slide, please.
Tonight's agenda, we will discuss Prince George's County Public Schools transportation for the school year 2023. We will discuss bus operations, technology, and student bus information. We will discuss transportation as a related service. We will discuss closures, delays, and inclement weather, bus staffing, transportation concerns, and we would which include the transportation resolution system and the transportation phone bank. This is Dr. Saunders, the Director of Transportation for Prince George's County Public Schools. He's the one that oversees all the transportation of the almost 100,000 students that we transport every day.
There has been some updates and changes with bus lot supervisors, as you can see on the screen, if you would like to take note of the new assignments for the supervisors. So Mr. Shuttler oversees the Douglas and Goddard bus lot. Mrs. Tuck oversees Fairmont and Friendly. Mrs. Bird oversees Greenbelt and Crossland. Mrs. Parks oversees Surrattsville and Bladensburg. Mr. George Fleming oversees Forestville and Laurel, and Mrs. Haynes oversees Mulligan and Hanson. And then Mr. Hill and Mr. Sproul are our operations supervisors at Skyline Administration Building. Next slide. One of our first lines of communications when it comes to transportation starts at our communications center. As Mr. Bridges indicated earlier, we transport almost 100,000 students daily, and we have a fleet of over 1,200 buses. Our communications center serves as the first line of communications for parents, schools, and all of our buses driving students. We do realize that during the opening of school, we incur a lot of challenges. Different students may be transferring or enrolling, and we can expect increased hold times. In regards to the communications bank, we are also in the process right now of hiring additional phone bank customer service representatives for the phone bank. Our staff members work to answer phones between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. on a daily basis. If you are trying to reach the bus lot, most of the time, the phone number will be routed directly to the communications center to allow them to answer your calls. They also have the capabilities of radioing the buses to find out estimated arrival times to and from school, as many of our staff members at the bus lots are are out driving. As if they have a CDL, most of them are out on the road driving. Next slide, please.
School transportation point of contacts. The transportation point of contact of the schools assists with coordinating the AM and PM bus dismissals. They also have access to bus information and help to maintain the list to ensure that the students are getting on the correct bus. Oftentimes, these are usually administrators or counselors. The point of contact monitor, a point of contact person monitors and reports student transportation issues to the designated administrator, and they also follow up to resolve issues with the Department of Transportation. They are often the first person that the driver will talk to if they have some kind of bus issue. Transportation point of contacts at schools should be made aware of any issues regarding transportation. This is just a simple slide that shows you myself, Mr. Bridges, and Ms. Allen. We are the transportation coordinators for special education for Prince George's County Public Schools, Department of Transportation. You see our contact information, our email addresses are there as well.
As a part of our role as the special education and transportation coordinators, we work between the schools, the parents, and the related service providers, along with the transportation department, to ensure that the appropriate services are provided for all of our students who are attending within comprehensive as well as special school settings. We represent the Department of Transportation at IEP meetings, and we also handle the direct administration of the student safety vest when students have safety vests in their IEPs. Of course, all of that starts at the school level. However, that's facilitated from the schools to the Department of Transportation, where we issue the vests to the bus lots and then they're delivered to the parents. We also work with the schools and transportation operation staff, along with the routing department, to assist with the placements of students on the appropriate bus routes. We also participate in the coordination and planning, as well as implementation of professional development activities or special needs bus personnel and supervisory staff, to ensure that everyone is up to date with any information they need to know regarding special education transportation. Next slide.
Okay. Some of our transportation challenges. What you might know is that obviously we are short on bus drivers. We are approximately anywhere from 180 to 200 drivers short at this time. Prince George's County School was greatly affected by the pandemic. A lot of the people who left during the pandemic chose not to return. We are holding bus driver fairs pretty much every 2 weeks, and which offer competitive pay and with benefits as well as a paid CDL license. We have 2 upcoming fairs coming up. One is tomorrow at Tanglewood from the hours of 10 to 2, and the other one is on October 12th from the hours of 4 to 7. They are both virtual and online, virtual and in person, or drive-through. I'm sorry. We encourage parents at all times to carpool whenever possible, and to keep in mind that middle school students and high school students may utilize the bus, which is operated by Prince George's County Public Schools, and they can ride this for free. All they would need is their student ID to get on board during school hours. Bus routes may be adjusted at times with the increased ride times, and more students are sharing bus routes, even on special education routes. And this is basically all due to the shortage of bus drivers that we have at this time. Parents should utilize Info Finder for bus schedule updates and Stop Finder for setting geo alerts to track the bus and get alerts. Schools may provide updated information regarding bus schedules from the internal viewfinder system.
If I may add an additional statement to the transportation challenges, if a student has not been assigned a bus for a prolonged amount of time, prior to contacting transportation, please ensure that I would encourage parents to ensure that they've spoken with the school, either the special education coordinator or the school registrar, to ensure that their student is actually coded properly for the appropriate program, or that the address is updated in the system. So because of many of the times that contributes to the delay as to why the information may not be transmitted properly.
Determination of transportation as a related service. Okay, during the IEP meeting, qualified personnel review the data in order to determine if a child with a disability requires the related service of transportation. Things that are considered are their cognitive ability, their medical issues, physical mobility reasons come into effect, where they are picked up and where they are dropped off, the length of ride time to and from school, and also whether additional personnel are needed for transport, such as assistant attendants or one-on-one attendants, and also if they require any specialized equipment, such as wheelchairs or safety vests or child seats. Travel training and other supports may be needed as well. And something to consider is that transportation representative has to be a part of the IEP team and can provide valuable information that is critical in the development, review, and revision of a student's IEP.
So one of the questions that always comes up as a common question are, do most students with disabilities and IEPs require or need special transportation? And the answer to that is no. Most of our students who have disabilities utilize the same transportation system as their classmates who do not. Sometimes having a closer bus stop, special equipment, or attendant on the bus may be all that's required. It's also important to note that most of our students who have transportation as a related service in their IEP, it is likely due to their participation in a specialized program that is out of their school boundary, that doesn't fall within the geographical location of their boundary. Although most of our special education bus routes, as a best practice, we have attendants on the bus routes. Not all the times is it necessarily required. We do prioritize students who require specialized equipment during transport and as required per individual IEPs. When students have concerns on the bus and they participate in the regular comprehensive program, it's important to address these concerns at the school level first. It's always recommended to implement tier 1 interventions, sometimes maybe a behavior plan or a token economy system, reward system, social stories, school bus patrols, peer buddies, or check-ins at arrival and dismissal. Should concerns continue to arise in that setting, parents and schools may request to hold an IEP meeting to include related service providers, including transportation team members. Next slide, please. I'm sorry, and I forgot to note also in that last slide that when students are granted special permission, special transportation is not a provision, or transportation is not a provision of that when it's an administrative transfer. Next slide. When we talk about designation of curb to curb pickup and drop off location, it's also important to note that IDEA nor Section 504 specifically address that whether the transportation should be to and from a designated bus stop or from the curbside of in front of the child's home. It's usually the decision that is made at the IEP meeting. And we provide curb to curb service because just in alignment with the IDEA and those laws, we also have to follow DOT regulations and make sure that the address location for students to be picked up are fully accessible and safe for the bus to travel through. A lot of times there may be different challenges with accessibility, including cars parked that make it impossible for the width of the bus to pass through. And so a lot of times our transportation supervisor and driver trainers at the bus lot, we consult with them to determine where is the safest curb to curb pickup spot along in consideration with the student's ability and needs. It's also important to note that transportation is provided to and from home address. for the AM and the PM, along with an approved daycare address may also be provided. The address locations must be within the boundary of the school. And for students, just in general, with the Administrative Procedure 3541, students in elementary school are assigned bus stops beyond 1.5 miles for elementary and beyond 2 miles for middle school and high school. We do encourage and ask our parents and guardians assistants to monitor students' safety to and from the bus stop and to and from school if they are within the walk zone. Students who require adult supervision must have a parent or guardian to meet them at the bus morning and afternoon daily. Next slide.
Okay. When we transport students who are considered in a non-public placement, if the Prince George's County schools are closed, PG County provides transportation services based on the current non-public school calendar, which means if we're closed, the students who go to non-public schools will still be transported through PGCPS. When PGCPS is on a school break or spring break, we will continue to transport for the non-public schools that remain open. Also, when those non-public schools are closed or on spring break, Prince George's County Schools does not provide transportation at that time. During inclement weather, inclement weather announcements, the decisions are made between the hour of 5 a.m. and 6 a.m., which must be authorized by the CEO or designee and announced by 6:30 a.m. 2-hour delays mean the cancellation there will be no work study, the ECCs, there'll be no pre-K or field trips or any transportation to special education programs. The non-public schools, they can follow their own local jurisdiction protocols. The decision to extend reduced school schedule days on a 2-hour delay is at the discretion of the non-public school. However, keep in mind, if Prince George's County public schools are closed because of weather, we will not be able to transport because we won't be able to get our buses safely in and out of where we go. So we will not try to provide transportation for those non-public schools at that time.
So just an overview really quickly of some of the transportation technology that we utilize in our operations. The indoor and outdoor cameras are on the bus to record, instances that may be taking place in the bus as well as outside of the bus. We also utilize Info Finder I for parents and schools to be able to look up. That's on the website, located on our transportation website, for schools and parents to utilize to find their bus stop information. The Stop Finder app is also something that can be downloaded as long as parents have an email address on file, and I'll go over that in a couple of slides as well. And then Viewfinder is the internal school app that schools may utilize for accessing student transportation information. One of the other important things to know about one of the technologies is Bus Patrol. Bus Patrol is what monitors the buses when they stop at the bus stop, and parents and drivers, motorists that are driving past need to be aware of that. I was going to show a video, but in the interest of time, in the next slide, we can disregard that. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of that, because my household has definitely experienced that, receiving those $250 fines in regards to the Stop Finder, or I'm sorry, the Bus Patrol, when the bus stop takes the picture, when the bus takes the picture when motorists drive past. So it's very important to make sure that we're adhering as motorists to all safety precautions, and that's in place for all of our students' safety. You can move on to the next slide. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, just an overview again. Our school transportation contacts have access to Viewfinder. Notifications of the times that may come from the bus driver. They may come from Info Finder as well as the Stop Finder app, and then schools also can confirm that information. Please note that effective dates are not live, are not indicated in Stop Finder. So our effective start dates are usually on Mondays and Thursdays of each week. If you need confirmation, you can always contact the school to confirm the effective start date if you happen to see that information in the app, as well as you can contact transportation at the phone bank. If you have any questions about Stop Finder, first you would want to make sure that you have an email address on file in SchoolMax. And that can also be confirmed with the registrar or through the parent portal. And then if you have any questions about that, you'll want to reach out to the email address highlighted in blue on the screen, transport.finder@pgcps.org. Any address changes may not be accepted through transportation. They have to go through the school registrar. So that's important to know also. If you do have an email address on file and you have not received an email invitation for Stop Finder, please be sure to check your spam or junk box. It should say get the new parent app Stop Finder in the subject heading line. Next slide, please.
Safety precautions. Face coverings are at this time optional, as the nurse had pointed out earlier in earlier presentations. Students may have medical exemptions for wearing face covers to school, so we should always respect whether they want to wear the mask or not. Face coverings and proper physical distances are recommended and are best practices while waiting for the bus. While waiting to exit the bus, it's important that students remain seated and will not congregate in the middle aisle. Please try to have them adhere to all directives provided by the driver and follow all transportation bus rules. To increase or improve airflow whenever possible, it is recommended that the windows may be open to the maximum extent possible when weather permits. Roof hatches and 3 windows on each side of the bus will be partially open to increase airflow, and that's also when weather permits as well. Driver side windows may remain open, and fans should be utilized to increase airflow.
At the beginning of the school year, all transportation personnel participate in our Safe Schools training, as well as training at the annual in-service. You can see on the screen there that we provide hands-on as well as virtual training for any specialized equipment, behavior strategies, and tips for bus management. Bus staff also participate in CPI, crisis intervention for de-escalating strategies. They also receive training for basic seizure, first aid, EpiPen, and first aid training. Many of our schools offer, for the specialized programs, they may offer a separate training for our school staff at the beginning of the school year, as well as throughout the year. And then specific individualized behavior training or medical training may be requested and provided by school personnel who may know the student best.
Okay, how will bullying on my child's school bus be addressed? It's essential to immediately address any known bullying that occurs on the school bus in order to restore a safe transportation environment. Any and all bullying incidents are to be documented by the school bus staff and reported to school administrators for a thorough investigation at that point. All requests for video footage on school buses will be requested through the school administrator to the transportation supervisor or bus lot foreman. The school bus is identified along with the date and time requested, and the request is processed through our external vendor. The transportation department will review the content of the video and make a copy to be shared with the appropriate school personnel to complete the investigation.
The best way, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The best way to handle complaints about the bus driver or the attendants, first it should start at the school level with the transportation point of contact or the special education coordinator or case manager. Parents may also choose to contact the transportation department at the phone number that was provided before. Any concerns after regular office hours, they can call school security at 301-499-7000. But the best way also is a new system that we've implemented, the transportation resolution system, by visiting trs.pgcps.org. Next slide, please. From the transportation resolution system, the concern is forwarded to the appropriate supervisor or resolver for resolution. They have to research the concern and then do an investigation. If the concern is regarding any lack of accommodations or that should be provided through this child's IEP, then the transportation coordinator may be receiving that concern as well, and then it's forwarded. Once that investigation is completed, the supervisor will take the appropriate action to resolve that concern. You can always visit our transportation website for the frequently asked questions and the quick facts page. If you want to take a moment, because we know that sometimes there's some sensitive information that you may not want to share via public forum, we have a Google survey that you can fill out there. You can use your phone to scan the QR code there if you want to use it from your phone, or you can use the link to access the survey just for some quick feedback in terms of the presentation that was provided this evening. And if you can also include any questions or comments that you'd like at the end of the survey.